Welcome everybody to this resolution meeting for Tuesday 22nd of November 2022. First thing, we've got to look at the fire regs. There's no evacuation drill announced for tonight, so if anything happens, make your way to the building, open the top car park. Sure you know that by now. Right, on to the first item, apologies and absence. Tell me.
Thank you, Chair. We've got apologies tonight from Councillor Bull, Councillor Hill and Councillor Sutton, with Councillor Wakeman acting as substitute.
Thank you. And item number 2, approval of the minutes for a previous meeting. Would you like to move? Second. I've signed them, so I hope they're all right. All in favour? Item number 3, public participation. There's not. Thank you very much. Members' interest. Anybody interested? No interest? No interested. Sorry, interest. I should say, not interested. I've got the other way wrong around. That's why we're here. Right, on to the item number 5. Communication and Market Strategy Annual Report 2022. Jim, you're on.
Thank you, Chair. It's the annual report of the strategy I always bring to this committee. And just for reference, the draft communications strategy is at appendix item 1. Background, we adopted the current strategy back in September 2014, and it doesn't move much, but we do have an action plan associated with it, which does. The whole thing is designed to help us to meet the needs and wants of our customers in this fast-moving digital world through a multi-channel approach. And the action plan is part of this report. So we review the current year, it's a calendar year action plan, and we set new targets for the coming year. So I can refer you to item 2, which is a review of the current action plan. The big two are 2.1 and 2.2. So 2.1 is completing the new signage project in our 3 large parks, in Ashbourne, Bakewell and Matlock, and that's been done. That was completed last month. New statement signs in our main parks, 5 in Hall Lees in Matlock, 5 in Ashbourne Park and 3 in Rutland Recreation Ground in Bakewell. Ward members were consulted in each case and had some interesting comments. And the PSBO element on each sign, which is very important, of course, was coordinated by colleagues in the Neighbourhoods Department. Happy to say all the signs were designed, manufactured and installed by the Council's own Clean and Green team within the budget drawn from commercial sponsorship raised from other elements of the overall signage project. That was mainly through the welcome signs that we did a few years ago. So no cost to local council taxpayers, which is always a good news. And you can see a couple of the signs there at the bottom of that page. So on to 2.2, and we're still working with the in-house IT team to improve and revamp at very low cost but high spec the official District Council website. We're halving the number of pages and making it more engaging, easier to navigate and to transact business with the District Council. There's a big focus on accessibility, and I'm delighted to say that the development site already has a 97% accessibility rating, which is massively better than the current site. It's on schedule. Content-wise, it'll be complete by the 16th of December, but we'll probably delay the launch until mid-January as there's no rush to allow for testing and essential background technical work. The site, as I said, has been developed entirely in-house by IT and our communications team. And my personal thanks go to Bev Hooton and Cara Marchant for driving this project forward. We're again using an open source, which means free content management system, and the only direct costs associated with the project are very minimal. It's like skinning associated portals, etc. We will be sharing the development site with you, members, for information before it goes live. So all good news from that point of view. I'm going to skim a little bit on the other review items, but you're welcome to ask me questions about those. But moving on to number 3, so that's a new action plan for the coming year. And 3.1 is very important because we need to continue to monitor and improve the website with the web development team, because there's a lot of work ahead to ensure that those new accessibility targets continue to be met. That's really important. We've got a big team of web editors who assist us in that. And 3.2 is worth a mention. If successful, and we haven't heard yet, as you know, we'll be leading partners in an ongoing communication of the £15 million Levelling Up Ashbourne Reborn Town Centre project. We understand we may hear early in December on that. We've already helped to draw up a communication protocol agreed by all the five key partners. And finally, I wanted to just mention 3.6. I think it's worth highlighting because we do continue to measure the success of large event promotions and marketing, such as Matlock Bath Illuminations. And we have an Illuminations post-event survey live at the moment. And I'd add that social media promotion of the Illuminations is incredibly successful. Our Illuminations Facebook page now has 42,000 followers, and basically that sells the event at virtually nil marketing costs. So it's really good value. You'll see at item 4 that I'm recommending the annual report is noted and the 2023 action plan is approved, and I'm happy to take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for a comprehensive report. A couple of points. One is news today from the District Council network is that because of the increased costs, some LUF bids may not be successful. So we really do have to keep our fingers crossed. The question I've got is that the area forum, the first one that we attended on at Bakewell the other night, only 4 members of the public attended. And there was criticism of where have you communicated to and why haven't you done this, why haven't you done this? Could you just advise, please, what did go out?
Yes, we've got on our email mailing list about 800 people who are signed up to receive information about the forums direct. And so they were all emailed twice. It was also on our social media, it was on the website. I know that Ros communicated with all the parish and town councils in the district as well to let them know. It's difficult, you know, is it the best way of doing it? I don't know. The third forum here at the town hall, we will be streaming live, so that'll be available not just to people coming in person, but also at the time, and also as an archive, of course, on YouTube. So hopefully we'll be able to measure the number of hits we get there. It may well be that the engagement online will be more significant than the engagement in person.
Thanks. I think Chief Ekazek and I have agreed that we need to have a rethink on area community forums. If we're only drawing 4 people, I think we'll get 800 though at the next one at Ashbourne.
Councillor Ratcliffe.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, just following on from what Councillor Purdy has said, I think it's an extremely well presented a report, and I have to say that your department is extremely successful too. We do present a good image. A simple question before I sort of expand it into the questions I'd like to ask. Am I reading it correctly that the strategy has not been changed since 2014?
It's been revamped every year, and it was made to look prettier last year.
Yes.
But I think that the main message of the strategy sort of is unchanged. Although digitally we move forward, we still have a multi-channel approach. And so I think, bearing in mind the demographic of the Derbyshire
Well, that
Dales,
leads me to the question I wanted to ask in a way is, 8 years, we've seen an awful lot of change in media presentation. Some of it detrimentally, I have to say, that all sorts of things lurk now beneath the image of media presentation. I'd like to feel that our media presentation was actually not disguising hidden truths, as it were, but was open and transparent, was pointing out the best qualities of this council, but whilst at the same time being able to tell the public some of the harder facts that need to be faced, particularly over the financial position that are going to face over the next couple of years. What do you feel will be the challenges of your department over the next couple of years or so in terms of media presentation?
I think, to be fair, there have been challenges every year since I've been here, which is 10 years now, probably a little bit more. And I think we are honest. You know, if you look at Dales Matters as a summary of all the communications that we do over a 6-month period, you know, the leaders column is always very honest about the challenges ahead. And the articles there, all, even though they're good news articles, I think do sort of lay out a very honest appraisal of what we face in terms of financial challenges and resource challenges. I honestly think that, and that reflects the day-to-day work we do on social media, which is always a challenge because, of course, social media is a two-way conversation. You can't put a story out there without being challenged. So, you know, it doesn't make any sense not to level with people about the honest view of the services that we offer.
Yes. And that leads me into more or less a sort of rhetorical question. Would you not agree with me that the use in a modified form of what I think has been a great success for me as a councillor has been the regular organisational updates that we've been receiving? I think the way they are presented to us, I think is very good. They're very detailed and again very informative of what's going on in the council. I think something like that to the public on a fairly regular basis, let's just say quarterly, something like that, I think would be a great asset to the way that we engage with the public. Is the mileage there?
I do try to pick items out of the organisational update, and we do, by the way, send it to all staff as well, so they're well informed about what goes on across the organisation. The only sort of argument against putting the whole thing out there is attention span, because people just don't have it. You know, and it's a lot easier for me to pick out bits and put them on social media, you know, and other channels, and it is to sort of present them with I think it was about 36-page document that last time. And although you would read it, and maybe, you know, 2% of our population might read it, I think it's not probably the right medium to get all our messages across in one go. But, you know, always listen. Obviously, I'll always listen to any good ideas.
Finally, I know it's not perhaps your primary responsibility, but it's part of the publicity, if you like, the image that is created for the council. I am very critical, as it were, of the state of some of the equipment that belongs to the council. And I'm thinking particularly of litter bins. Because I picked up on your point about big belly bins. They're good, they're very good, and they promote a good image. But I can tell you, I can take you through Wirksworth, and some of the litter bins there are in a really distressing condition. The doors are open, flapping in the wind. They don't look good, and particularly, of course, because we have our image on them. I would suggest that, I know it's not directly your responsibility, as I say, but in terms of publicity, I think that would welcome a scrutiny or a review.
I think it's a very good point. And actually, we've been talking in a team meeting, and James will confirm today about selling our assets. And to sell our assets, like litter bins and everything's saleable, you know, you've got to make them look good. And so, you know, that's going to be one of our big actions associated with the action plan in the coming year. I think we've really got to get to grips with that.
Mike. Councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to thank Jim for a very eloquent verbal report, because it does change what I thought actually about the report. I don't wish to be unkind or in any way, but I was looking, when it says new action plan, I was looking for something new and exciting, but 4 out of the 6 bullet points is all continue. So to me, that's not a real, and I believe that we should be having a 4-year strategy for the life of the council and let the officers get on with the work and not have to come back with a report that's just very much of the same. I mean, we talk about resources of this council. Let's let officers do the wonderful job that they're doing. And this could have been a report within, you know, notification to members or whatever you call the new system. I'm not on that yet. But nevertheless, you know, we do thank Jim and the team for the work that they do, because I do know that there are some sad souls out there that do nothing but look at the district council's website 24 hours a day, and they get on to us as well to criticise us. Well, that's fine, but I'm not one of those people. I think there's more to life than the district council, to be quite honest. But we do appreciate the messages that go out there. They're not all good. There's a lot of debate whether there's something behind what's been printed. You will always get that. But on the whole, we've got a very good mediation team. I'm thankful that the staff are doing the work they are doing, and we do have to keep up with modern times. Perhaps I can't, and I'm not as good as that, but we do need, because there's a generation there behind us to actually that want the information. So well done, Jim and the team, but do we need to put our staff under the pressure when this could have gone out in another form rather than to a full report coming to committee every year? We could look at that strategy and follow that strategy for the term of the council, and any news from that we get in another way.
And answer, Jim?
All I would say is that the digital world changes so quickly. You know, will we have Twitter in 2 weeks' time? I don't know. To have a 4-year plan rather than a 1-year plan doesn't really meet those demands, I don't think. I take your point that the new action plan is probably less arduous than previous years, but we have 1.9 people in the communications team, including me. We sort of really need to focus on what we've achieved. So the new website going forward, even though that's a tick, it's done, to actually make sure that that accessibility, those standards are maintained is a massive job. You know, and Cara manages about 15 web editors across the organisation, and all the time she's saying, you know, you can't do that, you must do this. And so it is a big job. And I think to stretch yourselves further in the coming year would probably stretch resources too far. That's all I can say.
Not what I'm actually saying. I'm saying just the opposite to that.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Them of the work and let us get on with doing
Yeah, we have a communications hub which helps out, and I think 1 year makes sense because of the fast moving world that we live in. Honestly.
Councillor Wakeman.
I'd like to move the report, and I hope it will get passed on our thanks to everyone concerned in this report. It is good. The Green and Clean team, we don't know really how valuable they are. Now, you know, it's all coming forward. And well done.
I've just got a few more questions and then I'll ask for a seconder. Okay. Councillor Lees.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, Jim, I'm just looking at item 2.1, where it refers to ward members being consulted. I, for one, didn't get a lot of consultation on this at all, even though the signs look really good. But having been consulted more on these signs, I think the sighting of one or two of them, particularly in Ashbourne Park, could have been put a little bit better. But it's more the sighting of them, whoever sighted them. No problem with the signs. I think we're just lacking a little bit of consultation with ward members, myself personally. Also, when you talk about the big belly bins, yes, brilliant idea, use that space up on them. But we need to get on to the Clean and Green team. Let's get these bins empty, because all people look at is that red light that's flashing at you all the time. It's full. We've had quite a few situations in Ashbourne, they've been full. I've noticed it the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, when I've been out selling poppies. The bin's been full. I've been stood near one. One of our workforce walked past me. Have you come to empty the bin? No, I do the toilets. I thought they got a red signal on that signalled to somebody, come and empty me. And I think we should look at that first before we start trying to sell ourselves. We should get his own stuff in order first by getting these bins emptied on a regular basis. So, but no, credit to you on the signs, but just a little bit more information would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you'll agree, Councillor Lees, that I did email the locations and designs of the signs to you. In fact, Councillor Archer fed back some really valuable information on the pavilion in the park, which we added to the signs because you said it would help people to know that there was a bar and it's open from time to time. So, the feedback we received from members was really valuable because you're the people on the ground.
It's just, they're good, but it's just like you'd have just turned them round a bit more or put one a bit more in your face, if you like, rather than having to look for it. Just the pure location of it, which was on the ground, could have given that information and had that input. It'd been good. But no problem with them.
Thanks, Stuart. Councillor Buttle. Yeah.
Thank you. Jim, excellent. I'm looking forward to having less website to try and find stuff in, because I often find that I'm wandering around in there and I just can't get my head around it. So I'm looking forward to having a bit less of it. But if we're having a bit less of it, what are we losing? Are we losing nuance, or are we losing detail? Are we losing both?
We're compacting quite a lot. So, for instance, we have separate pages at the moment for individual pests in pest control, whereas it doesn't make any sense. It makes life more difficult from a navigational point of view. If you go into pests, you want the whole list of pests on the same page. We're also making the language simpler. So every page will have to have a reading age of no more than 9, which may seem a little early, but that's the government recommendation, and so everything will be written in smaller chunks. The sentences will be no more than 20 words. A little bit that when I was learning to be a journalist, it was always about the punch, keeping each sentence to one big message rather than trying to mix things up. So we're compressing, we're condensing, and we're getting rid where we know from analytics that people aren't visiting those pages anyway. It doesn't make any sense. So actually halving, which we have done so far, the amount of pages, has been done with no pain whatsoever. And believe me, that departments would scream and shout if they thought we were throwing away stuff that they felt was valuable. We're simplifying the whole thing, and we're meeting standards which we should have possibly met before now. But credit again to the IT department, who are really hot on accessibility. And there are all sorts of very clever programs that tell you what the reading age of a page is. There's a program we use called Silktide, which tells us all sorts of stuff about what's accessible, what's not, which language is easy to read, which isn't. So modern technology really is a hand holder from that point of view.
Excellent. Reading age of 9 will suit me fine. Yeah, there'll be. My other question was about the search function. I use the search function, and I imagine other people do as well. Do you know what's being searched for and bring it further forward, as it were?
There is a function within the content management system that does that. What we've done this time, though, is to add an A to Z. So on the main page, on the home page, you've got an A to Z, which makes life a lot easier from the point of view of searching for your subject. So that's an addition, which again should help the overall process.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm just curious.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. Jim, I think every year when we have this conversation, I'm a champion of Dales Matters, and I know we are digital by default and we have a lot of social media, but there are an awful lot of people who love to get their copy of Dales Matters. It's the only bit of information that does get into every household. Perhaps you could just remind people of, how much it costs and what have you, and are there any plans going forward to, are we going to continue doing what we're doing at the moment?
I think it's an ongoing discussion, to be quite honest, and we have to bear in mind the demographic of the Derbyshire Dales, which is why this strategy talks about a multi-channel approach. And Dales Matters is the only channel that we have that gets to every single household. From a cost point of view, the one that's just gone out costs about 17p per home. So the expenditure's about £2,500 in print, £2,500 distribution. The one we put out in March is cheaper because we ride on the back of the council tax envelope, so the distribution is at no additional cost to me, and we also get more advertising generally in that edition as well. So the cost probably is about 6p per property. So I think it's worthwhile, but again, you know, James will confirm that we were talking about this today, and maybe, you know, what we need to do is to use this as something that's more saleable. You know, it is a publication that gets to 34,000 homes. You know, maybe we should be selling it as an asset, you know, within the organisation. How do we do it? I don't quite know, but it's a conversation to be had. But I think even now, it's probably good value for money. I think so anyway.
Thank you very much. Could I find a seconder for the proposal? Councillor Purdy. Right, to move into debate. Councillor.
And not really a debating point, but Jim, can I just mention something to you that I noticed recently, and I thought was a wonderful piece of publicity for the council again. I noticed on, I think it was in Ashbourne, Stuart, several quite large posters on the doors of cafes or eating places saying how that they've been awarded 5 stars by the Environmental Health Department. And of course, the Derbyshire District Council's logo was very prominent. And I thought, what a great double-edged sword, as it were, for both of us. You as the owner, and for us as the District Council.
And credit to Environmental Health. It's that team that organises all those and the hygiene checks. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Okay, members, if there are no further contributions, I'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Yeah. Review of internal audit charter. Jenny, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. This committee last reviewed the Charter in September 21. The public sector internal audit standards do require that the purpose, authority and responsibility of internal audit is formally defined in a Charter. There haven't been any changes to the public sector internal audit standards since the last review. So I've had another look at the Charter and happy it's still fit for purpose. The only actual change I've made is my job title. CITFA does recommend the Charter's reviewed every year and approved. However, it is officers' views that that's perhaps a bit excessive and that every 3 years would be okay, unless there are any significant changes to the public sector internal audit standards, and then we would bring it back as soon as possible. So the recommendation asks members to note and agree the outcome of the review of the Charter, agree the Charter, and agree that it be reviewed in 3 years' time or sooner if there are any major changes to the public sector internal audit standards. Thank you.
Question for Jenny. Judge Fletcher.
Not really a question, but just to thank you for the report. And this is exactly what I've just been talking about with the last report. You know, what is the point in coming back every year if nothing has changed? What we want to do is be informed when things change, and that can be done in a separate report. But just a thank you, and I'm willing to move the report.
Ratcliffe.
I'll take a page out of Councillor Fletcher's book and say, you know, well done, Jenny. Carry on the good work. We need this sort of thing more than ever, you know, to look after the finances, etc., and to see that it's all being managed correctly and well. But you know, I agree with the sentiment that again Steve has expressed. You know, thank you for coming, but it's your work that we need. You know, not this sort of bureaucracy, if you like.
Mike, the report. Mike, would you like to second the report?
It's rather like saying nice to see you, but bugger off. No, this is as we discussed, Jenny, until on the pre-brief, that this is the right way forward. So I'm pleased that I'll let opposition members speak first to see their thoughts. So it's good to hear that they're on the same page. Yeah, right way to go.
Any more questions? I'll move to debate. No debate. So it's been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll get it right this time. Item number 7. Updated report on 2023 internal audit plan. Jenny?
Thank you, Chair. So this is my usual progress report. In overall terms, due to the departure of your senior auditor and your auditor, we've actually made little progress on the plan that was approved in March 22. It does mean, unfortunately, that for the financial year 22-23, it is looking likely that I'll have to give a limited scope internal audit opinion. That means I won't have been able to obtain the assurances to provide an audit opinion due to the lack of work undertaken. Recruitment has been extremely difficult in many areas of the public sector, but in audit we have struggled, and the consortium struggled as well. The council has attempted to recruit on several occasions. The senior auditor post has been advertised again with a market supplement and a welcome payment. So we have had some applications that I've reviewed with Karen this afternoon, and we will be interviewing on the 2nd of December. Before the 2 staff left, we did issue 3 reports, and they're detailed in the appendix. 2 with substantial assurance and 1 with reasonable assurance. So in terms of those reports, I don't have any concerns to raise. We didn't identify any fraud. And so the recommendation is that the report be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Contributions? No?
Chair, I'm happy to.
I beg your pardon.
Paul.
Paul.
Any questions first?
Yeah.
Any questions?
Councillor Cruz, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just, I know it's been really difficult trying to retain people and then replace people. Is contracting a short-term route just to keep us on top of things whilst we fix the more strategic concern about workforce planning?
Yes, Jenny and I have discussed today that if we're not successful in appointing after the interviews on the 2nd, we will look at contracting. We have received some CVs already, but it is a very expensive option.
Thank you.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yeah, that just went on, I think, from what I was going to say, and the fact that it's good to know that you're probably going to look at contracts and other ways. But I was just wondering, under 2.4, you did say consider other options. Is that the only option, or have you got a plan B?
Well, other options that we've looked briefly at in the past have been working with other local authorities. So I would explore that, working with the Internal Audit Consortium. So that would be my next option to look at.
Councillor Purdy.
Thanks, Chair. If I can just remind members, please, that I attended the East Midlands Council several weeks ago now, and this issue was raised, and every leader at that meeting in the East Midlands said they're suffering the same problem in recruiting, and it's a mixture of things. The pandemic has affected people not wanting to go to work, not wanting to work even, and a skills issue, but obviously the private sector is getting a bigger draw than local authorities. So the chairman of the East Midlands Council promised that the review would be done And I know for a fact that the LGA have got this matter in hand as well, because it's a problem nationally, not just with us.
Any more questions? I'll move straight to debate then. No debate? Sorry? Second, no, what's it? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8. Asset Management Plan, Landholding Review, Phase 4.
Yes, I'm going to take.
Paul. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take this one. Mike Goldsworthy would normally present this report this evening, but unfortunately he's not able to be with us. So the report is presented for members' consideration following a process of consultation both with individual ward members in the areas affected and also the local town and parish councils. The report does say that an update will be provided to the committee in terms of those consultations, and I can confirm that no objections have been received to any of the 4 transfer proposals outlined in the paper. I've nothing significant to add to the report, Chairman. Suffice to say that all 4 of these do form the latest phase of the Council's ongoing asset management plan. They are all supported and the details are contained within the report itself. Happy to take any questions.
Paul. Question for Paul?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. The only thing that I'm worried about, having experienced the Starkholmes allotments horror in the last few governance meetings. Number 3, the one that's going to Darley-Dale, does it have an asset of community value tick box ticked?
Certainly in terms of the assessment of this application, it does. In a slightly different scenario to the Starkholmes situation, which was clearly owned by an alternative party who clearly had wishes to redevelop or put that site to an alternative purpose. The same situation doesn't arise in terms of the Darley-Dale ones, so I don't think it's quite in the same category. But all of our indications so far are that there's no hindrance to that transfer taking place should members approve it.
Has there been any discussion whatsoever about their purposes for taking control of this allotment area and the associated patch alongside?
In terms of the town council?
Yes.
The town council's intention is to maintain it as allotment grounds.
Right, thank you.
Any more questions? Go, Councillor Cruiser.
Thanks, Chair. It's more of a broad question on assets being transferred. I know we've had challenges with legal resources. I'm just curious about what the current state of play is relative to making sure that we can expedite these transfers fairly quickly. Some of them can take an extended period of time, which means we don't get the benefit as a district council, and the kind of recipient isn't able to start working with them as an asset. So I'm just curious about that, Paul, what your thoughts are.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members will recall from previous reports I've brought that whilst the council have invested in our legal team in the last 18 months to 2 years, it is a very, very busy team. And it really comes down to priorities, because the people who are dealing with things like asset transfers are the same solicitors who are dealing with major redevelopment schemes such as Bakewell Road in Matlock, such as the Levelling Up Fund applications in Ashbourne, such as UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So it's all contract related, and it really comes down to priorities and trying to fit a lot of these disposals in alongside everything else, to be honest. I'm fully aware of the fact that some of these have been around for quite some time, and there are others that haven't yet come to members, and it's a case of trying to get to them when we can. But if members wanted to prioritise this work, then it would clearly have to take precedence over something else, and the something else at the moment is delivering more on the council's overall corporate priorities.
Just perhaps to avoid that hard choice, Paul, I know that there's been some indication from parish councils, etc., that they would contribute to an outsourcing to make it happen quicker. So it's just something to consider as we partner with parishes that are going to be recipients.
Councillor Chapman.
Thanks, Chair. Paul, I'd just like to ask, I'm specifying the Nabor Lane site, where their wishes are to form wildlife habitat and natural capital. From my experience, natural capital can have individual implications or assume what the natural capital is. Are we offering any guidance or are we imposing any kind of direction on how that should be managed? I mean, or are we just letting them go at it as a free for all, really?
The only information I have at my disposal is the information that's outlined in the Land Holdings Review Site Number 2 assessment page, which outlines the request from the Townsley Parish Council in terms of the application, which is simply the wildlife habitat to protect it from development. So I'm not aware of any further details related to their intentions in that respect.
Sorry, it just seems quite a broad brush. That was all.
Any more questions? Councillor Purdy. Oh, I beg your pardon, I was asleep. Sorry.
It was just going on from what Paul was saying about priorities. I'd like to know whose priorities take preference. You know, I mean, we're talking about communities here, and they have been going on a long time. Take the pinfolding, for instance, in Tansley. It took nearly 5 years, you know, and it's unacceptable to the local community. And okay, we might have a small team, they might be very busy, but whose priorities are we working to? We should be working to the priorities of the local people. And, you know, there's still a lot of unanswered questions about Nabor Lane, and I'm not going to go into them or ask for any information tonight because I don't want to delay this action any further. But, you know, let's take these community assets seriously and don't let's put them into the background, because I know when we worked on Hurst Farm to get Hurst Farm going on when we first started back in well into the early 90s after a property up there. The property, you know, which was the Derbyshire District Council then, I mean, it took forever. And we were working on an at-will lease, which it just does nothing for you. It does nothing for the community. So, you know, let's take this seriously and work out where the priorities are and get it right, because I don't want this to be going on for another 2 or 3 years. I think the people of Tansley want answers. The people of Starcombs want answers. And I think they deserve them.
Councillor Purdy.
It was following on from Councillor Chapman's point about Tansley, Paul. As the report from our consultants that examined our site that proved that it wasn't viable for us to continue with a permanent traveller site, has that been presented to Tansley Parish Council so that they are aware of all the toxicity and implications?
My understanding and recollection is that that was shared at the time, yes.
Any more questions? Moving to debate then. Councillor Purdy.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for stepping in for Mike. Paul let Councillor Hobson and I know today, and I don't think Mike will mind us sharing this. No? Right, so I'll just be careful. He's incapacitated through an accident. That suffices. So I think what I'm wanting to say is I'm sure this committee sends in our good wishes. That's all I want to say. So I'm happy to move recommendations, Chair.
Go straight to the vote then. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Brother, ladies and gentlemen, before we finish, can I thank you and the officers and the membership for your contributions to my committee this year. And being as we won't be meeting again till into the new year, hopefully, I wish you all and your families a very happy Christmas and a prosperous